Good morning, students. Now today we are going to start up with our new chapter, which is regarding to the United Nation. Now this chapter you should be understanding in a very proper or in a very detailed way. So please go through the video in a very minute and in a very proper way and understand it. Now, before we start to understand the importance of the United Nations, we have to understand how was the system in the earlier period. Now we have studied in various different historical chapters of wars taking place. Now in earlier times, when kings used to be there, rulers used to be there, kingdoms used to be there. Whenever there was a large number of wars that were taking place, most probably these wars were significantly taking place between two groups of soldiers or warriors in a particular battlefield. There also we found or we have understood or we studied that whenever there was war, there was bloodshed. People lost their lives. Soldiers lost their life. But it used to be among a particular group of people who chose to fight among themselves, or the soldiers, so to say, or the kings on two different groups in a particular place, a particular separate place away from their own citizens. Now, as systems started changing of wars, now in modern times, where now in earlier what used to happen, there were limited number of people or a particular group of people only who were affected by this war. It was true that later on the kingdoms also got affected, but during the war it was only lives related to or bloodshed related to those group of people known as soldiers or kings of different categories, different groups who were affected by it, losing their lives, shedding their bloods. There was mass killing also there. But things changed as modern times came, where people started war attacking even the citizens. Now, it may be knowingly, but it may be unknowingly those attacks were done. Now, this war also brought about loss of destruction, bloodshed, devastation throughout the areas or throughout the world. But it was not only that particular group of people who were affected, who were in war. It also affected common citizens. Their lives were endangered. They lost their lives. They lost their lives. Not only a particular group, there were no group, there were no category. Women, children, old, young, everyone lost their lives in this war in modern times, where modern kind of equipments, modern kind of weapons were used to destroy each other or to go against each other in regarding to when there was a large number of or a bigger war scenarios being found in the modern times. Now, considering this basic idea is just to understand as to what was the situation earlier and how it later on prevailed in the modern times. And during these modern times, we faced a very devastating or unhumanitarian kind of wars that took place, which was known or which was given name as the First World War. Now, in this First World War, there were two different groups, or you can call it that alliances of groups of different countries in one group, of different countries in another group, who clashed among each other due to various differences among themselves. And this clash brought about not only destruction or problems to the normal people, but also the common citizens who were not indulged, who were most probably who were unknown about the fact what is going on, the political facts that are being there, which brought about, which not only killed the humans, but the race of people were destroyed for a long period of time, which brought not only disturbed the internal uh, activities of the people, but also destroyed the living system of the people. Families were lost. Economical crisis came across the country for a longer period of time, where people suffered due to unemployment, people suffered due to losing their families, bloodsheds. That means what, a large number of devastation, or you can say destruction of human or mankind was found. Now, after the First World War, when it was seen that the scenario is getting worse and worse, people are getting troubled or they are facing a lot of problems for a long period of time. There were alliance of people, a group of countries who decided to bring peace and harmony. So what they did is that they thought of constructing an institution, or you can say an organization, which was known as the League of Nations. Now this organization where or this organization was organized, or it was constituted with the help of various important people of different representatives or important powerful people of different countries who were there in the First World War, understanding the problems of the people and coming into peace. And this League of Nations was most probably been formed to bring about peace and harmony among the group of nations that are there who came into war, and due to this war there was lot of destruction or disturbance of mankind found in throughout different part of the countries. But it was seen that even though this League of Nations was constructed, there were certain flaws, there were certain demerits that were being found, which were used in an advantageous purpose by different powerful nations. And the very purpose of the League of Nations failed. And because of this, what happened? There was one more war that took place, which was known as the Second World War. These powerful countries who wanted to show their own rage of power, their own crush of power against the other nation, the League of Nations was unable to omit one more war which took place, known as the Second World War. Again, there were clashes of two different alliances or two different powerful nations in different groups. They fought with each other, and again the same kind of scenario was found where people lost their lives, destruction were found. Now the situation comes across is that there was First World War. Understanding the problem, an organization was created. This organization failed. Then the Second World War took place. Now, after when the Second World War took place, which brought about a lot of destruction, again killings, bloodshed, and the various purpose of constructing the League of Nations, that is bringing about peace and harmony among the countries, were destroyed, or it was killed. The purpose of League of Nations was totally killed after the Second World War, or when the Second World War took place. Now, again the same situation came across where crisis was found. Various countries who lost. War is not a simple thing, dear students. What happens? In war, what happens? People not only lose their life, lot of money is being flowed out. And due to the flow of money for the war purpose, what happens? Later on, the treasury of a country gets emptied, and that only brings about a lot of crisis. And same happened here, where most of the countries were out of economical condition, or their economical conditions were totally destroyed. There were unemployment, food scarcity, people were dying of hunger, and this situation again was seen after the Second World War, which was more destructive compared to the First World War, being technology more advanced, more destructive kind of weapons were being used, which was more destructive in nature, which not only brought about destruction throughout a particular single nation, but throughout different part of the world. Now again, there was a situation where after a long period of war, there prevailed a peace situation where countries started thinking, or important people started thinking, and and after the Second World War, there was a agreement, or you can call it as a charter, that was signed, which was known as the Atlantic Charter. Now, why it is to be very much important to understand about the prehistorical details for the organization such as United Nations, which was constituted, so that it gives you a proper picture about what was the reason behind it, what was the history behind it. And there was a charter being signed between two important powerful nations. Now, it has a very important reason why it was called as an Atlantic Charter. Now, two different prime ministers or presidents of the country who were powerful individuals in their own nation. One was known as Franklin. Franklin, who was the president of or the prime minister of one of the countries known as the Great Britain. And the next was Roosevelt, who was the president of America. Now these two powerful peoples, what they did is that they came in contact with each other through an agreement in the open seas of Atlantic. In an open sea of Atlantic, and they signed a charter, or you say an agreement, which brought about peace, which formulated various principles as to how the mankind could be saved from a further destructive situations as such, which has accompanied them during that particular time. And it was during that time when a charter was signed in 19 when this charter was signed, it was the period of August 14th, August 1941. Now this was the date when both of these important personalities, they met each other in an open sea of Atlantic Ocean, and they signed a charter with various principles, various ideas and laws and regulations which could bring about a peaceful resolutions among the disputing countries, or as a whole all of the countries which has been occurred or which has come up with they are facing due to the Second World War. And they agreed upon to come into certain terms and conditions, giving certain rights, guaranteeing certain important basic rights to the common people, and which were sorted down to be the most four important basic rights that was implemented during this charter to bring about a peaceful atmosphere, or to bring about a peaceful situation among the war nations. What were these rights? What was this right? Number one. Number one is regarding to freedom of speech. Freedom of, the second one is regarding to freedom of want. Then you have the fourth one, a third one known as freedom of religious belief. And the last, which was in regarding to freedom from fear. Now this four important rights were being incorporated when the charter or the Atlantic Charter was signed between these two powerful people or personalities, that is Franklin and Roosevelt, and which inscribed these four important rights in the charter, which gave freedom of speech. A person who feels like saying anything or which can be good or bad against a government, he has the freedom. The government has to take it positively, or the organization has to take it positively and work according to it. Freedom of wants means the requirement, like because of the Second World War, what had happened? People lost their lives, food scarcity was there, people did not were or they were unable to do what they wanted. There were political pressure that was built among the people, where people were not able to move out their houses, they were not able to go here and there were curfews been made, there were a lot of restrictions been built about. So this freedom of wants gave them a choice to have a life of their own. Then freedom of religious belief, where a person who could practice any kind of religion, there was no restriction, or there cannot be any kind of restriction built upon them. Freedom from fear. Why fear? This particular point was been, or this particular right was been readily given. Obviously, there was mass destruction, or there was a lot of problems being faced due to the war, and this war obviously brings about fear, a sense of scaredness into the minds of the people that had to be removed from their mind. They were psychologically so much affected due to the war that they even did not have so much courage to come out of the houses or mingle among people, understanding that their lives can be endangered. So this right had to be incorporated by the charter, so that people mind will be freed again. They could freely work, they could come out of their houses, believe in the system, and then slowly what they were had to do, they had to correct themselves, so that the economical system or the working of the nation can be again brought into the normal conditions that were prevailing earlier to it. So these are certain important rights that were incorporated by the charter to bring about peaceful environment again back into the world, the working conditions to be normal into the world, so that the crisis that was being faced could be revived again into a normal condition. So this is the historical detail as to how or in what way the importance of the United Nations or the bringing about the constitution known as the forming a constitution or institution which is known as the United Nation was brought about. So this is the basic idea or reason where it states about why there was importance of various different organizations or institutions to be built in different form of time or different time periods, so that humanity could be saved, human race could be saved from any destructive or wiping out of the human race from this world, or bringing about a normal working condition into the nations. So this is all for today. Understanding the basic reason as to what was the principles or ideologies or things that took place earlier and how different organizations were being set up. So this is all for today. We'll be learning in details about this particular chapter, where we're going to understand as to what were the other formations which took place after this, which gave the development of the United Nations, and which are the different groups who play important roles individually organized under the United Nations, having their own functions, having their own working systems, so that the peace and security and harmony among the nations, different nations, can be prevailed. Thank you everyone for today, and we'll be doing precisely about each and every chapter that will be completed, and the notes will be given to you very soon. Thank you very much.